This video explains the questions in the checkpoint for lesson 2. First one, the table shows the pH value of the plaque surrounding the teeth of a girl over 24 hours. For part A, it asks you to state the times during the day when, part 1, conditions were most favorable for the process of tooth decay. So in the previous lesson, we mentioned bacteria in plaque break down sugars in food debris to produce acid, and it's an acid that dissolves the enamel and causes tooth decay. So on this table, we need to find the time that the pH is the lowest, which it means it's most acidic, and that's the time that the tooth decay process will be most favorable. So among the table, we can find the smallest number for pH on the right hand side. The smallest number means it's more acidic. Okay, so on the right hand side you can find 4.1, which is the smallest number on this table, and the time for the pH at 4.1 is at 2 p.m. and also 6 p.m. Okay, and then next one. The girl brushed her teeth with toothpaste. In our previous lesson, we mentioned our toothpaste is slightly alkaline to neutralize the acid. Okay, so we need to look for a time on the table that the pH just changed from acidic to alkaline. So looking for a change from the number which is lower than 7 to a place where the number is higher than 7. Okay, so you can find those changing points at around 8 a.m., which changes from 7.2, which is pretty neutral, to alkaline. Okay, and then also we can find that at 10 p.m. So it changed from pH 6, which is acidic, to pH 6, which is alkaline. Okay, so that's the time that she brushed her teeth. So we can write down the time should be 8 a.m. and also 10 p.m. Okay, and then the next question, explain the change in pH values from 8 to 12 a.m. 8 to 12. So let's circle the part that we need to discuss. Okay, it's around this region. Okay, so for this one, it's worth 4 marks. So at least you need to list out 4 points. So what do we need to do? What do we need to discuss for this question? So first, we must describe the change and then explain the change. So what is the change? We can take a look here. It actually changed from alkaline and to acidic. So it dropped from 8.1 to around 5. And you can see it's increased slightly later on. And why you see this increase, we are going to learn in the next lesson. Okay, so let's focus on the first part. Okay, so in order to get 4 marks, please label each of your sentence. So first, we need to describe the change. So the pH value of the plaque surrounding the teeth decreases. Okay, and then we need to explain what causes this decrease. Okay, this indicates that the girl had breakfast before that. Okay, so as you can see, when she had breakfast, let's take a look. It should be the time that the pH start to drop, because the bacteria break down the food sugar in the food debris to produce acid. So you can see the pH start to drop at 9 p.m. That indicates that the grower had breakfast, we can say at around 9 o'clock. And then after she had breakfast, the bacteria would break down the sugars in the food. Okay, and then this produce acid which lower the pH. Okay, so in total you need to at least write 4 sentences to get 4 marks. Question 2. Explain how the process of food digestion will be affected if a person loses most of his teeth. This question worth 3 marks, so remember to at least write 3 points to get those marks. So if a person loses most of his molar, and we know molar is responsible to grind food into smaller pieces. So if a person doesn't have his molar, then first point we can state that the person would fail to grind food into smaller pieces. Okay, and if we fail to grind the food into smaller pieces, that means the surface area of the food would remain quite small, or the change of the surface area would be not very significant. So we say it increases less. So the surface area of food for digestive enzyme to work on remains small, or we can say it increases less. Okay, so if we have a pretty small surface area for digestive enzyme to work on, then the rate of digestion would decreases. Okay, so that's for question 2. Then question 3, it got 4 MC questions. So please refer to the diagram on the left, which shows the vertical section of a human tooth. And this is a Hong Kong CEE question. So for the first one, which structure contains a large amount of calcium salt? So for the part that are quite hard, usually they contains calcium salt. So among the 5 structures that have been labeled, we know that the first one is enamel. Second one, dentin, and also the fourth one, which is a jawbone. They are rich in calcium salt, so the correct answer should be A. And for part B, which structures are hard and rigid? Okay, so again, for those are rich in calcium salt, usually they are quite hard, so it should be 1, 2, and 4. And number 5 is labeled is the gum, and we all know our gum is not very hard. Okay, and for question C, which structure receives a continuous supply of nutrients? Okay, so if it contains living cell, that means it can receive, it need to have a supply of nutrients, and it also means that this part can repel itself if it got damaged. Okay, so those parts that got living cells should be able to do it. So it should be D. Okay, enamel it's a non-living part of our teeth, so it will not be able to receive the supply of nutrients. The last one, which of the following is most effective in preventing tooth decay? A. Using a toothbrush with a larger head. B. Brushing the teeth after meals. C. Brushing the teeth harder. D. Avoiding sugary food. So for A and C, it won't be very useful to prevent tooth decay. For A, because if we brush it with a larger head, we cannot move those small debris. And for C, if we actually brush it too hard, we may damage the enamel, the surface protection layer. And then let's consider B or D. Okay, if we're trying to avoid sugary food, however, we're still taking other forms of food, and it would when the bacteria break down those food, it would still produce acid. But for D, brushing the teeth after meals, so it doesn't matter what kind of food we're taking, we just remove all the food debris in our mouth, so the bacteria won't be able to produce any acid. So that's the most effective way of preventing tooth decay, because it can effectively avoiding the acid being produced in our mouth. So the correct answer should be B.